Oh man, I haven't really done a lot yet, really. Just finished. I got all that little alcove done. I got this done. I got, you know. It takes a lot out of you, man. The thing is, I'm wearing a NIOSH mask N100, I think. What is this thing rated for? I don't know. I'm wearing one of these. And I can't smell a thing. I can't smell anything. I take it off. Oh my God. It smells like, almost like burning rubber. The asphalt is what's really kicking my ass. This tar paper stuff. It's actually like a felt paper. And they used to use this stuff for everything. Roofs. They used to use it for sheathing. The whole house is covered in that stuff. Exterior. It's the layer before the side, like a vapor barrier. And they used it when they laid vinyl, whatever, floors. But the smell, holy shit. It really isn't that bad. It's just, it does have a smell to it. I don't want to be too dramatic. It does have an odor. It's like, kind of like a burnout. Like somebody's doing donuts in the street. But that's the tar, the asphalt, being released. What surprised me is when they laid this underlayment down, the plywood, they really piecemealed it, especially in here. It's like all different pieces. I kind of half expected it to be a bigger, just one big, precisely cut. No, they just patched it up, you know, whatever. I'm going to have to do much of the same when I put in my my quarter ply. When they built this house, this is a little interesting. When they built it, now I've never built a house. I've been in houses that were under construction, but I don't remember taking note of the order of operations, if you will. This house, when it was built, they had the subfloor down. That's the 1x planks that are underneath this plywood. This plywood is not the subfloor. It is just an underlayment. It is a 7/8 thick underlayment. It's incredibly thick. I'm sorry, it's 3/4 inch plywood on top of 1x6 or 1x8 planks, which is the real subfloor. So what they would do is they'd put the subfloor down and they'd build the house on top of that. They trimmed, they did all this plaster work, they trimmed, they painted. Yes, they painted the trim. Then they put the underlayment down. Which means that the hardwood floors were done around the same time. And yeah, it's very interesting. I've learned a little bit about how a house is constructed based on what I'm finding in the evidence. Actually, I take that back. The trim was not painted, but the trim was in place before the flooring went in. So, yeah. I find that really interesting. What that really means is I cannot pull these baseboards off if I ever wanted to pull these off without cracking them. They cannot be removed. I would have to rip the entire floor out, then pull them off. My coworker had a house built from about the same time period, or had a house that was built around the same time. That's where that light came from, by the way. His was built in 1958, and he had to pull the trim off to do some work on the walls, and he actually had to crack the boards because they were done first. They were there first. They don't want to go anywhere. Anyway, so what I'm doing is I'm pulling these 2 tiles deep, 2 at a time, 2 at a time, 2 at a time. and I'm working my way down. It's really going pretty quick. It is time consuming. It really is time consuming. I'm not going to lie. But the good news is the plywood is looking pretty healthy. All I got to do, like I said, it looks like they put what is that? Maybe a 2-inch board on the end here, and then they put plywood down. So they use that 2-inch board as a spacer. So my 4-foot piece of plywood, I'm going to be cutting it probably about here, maybe 4 feet in. Cut it with a circular saw and dig it out. That won't be so bad. This is going to be pretty easy stuff, and then I'm going to run to the lumber yard, and I'm going to get myself probably a complete 4x8 sheet that I'm going to cut in half to get it in my car, and then I'm going to patch in the rest of it's going to go under the dishwasher, and then I'm going to make my repairs to the cabinet space at the same time. I'll get my Sawzall out, and we'll cut, make our necessary adjustments and repairs now, get the floor in, and then maybe by tomorrow, hopefully I get this done today. But I gotta take short breaks. I don't want to work myself into death. You know what I'm saying? I gotta stop every couple of minutes and just take a break. I don't want to wind up hurting myself because, you know, as you get older, and I'm not in terribly good shape. I don't do a lot of exercising, but I don't want to wind up with shoulder issues and back issues because I overworked myself. I did that when I did the front entryway last summer, about this time of year actually. I think I did it in April, and or May actually. But when I tore all this apart, I did it all in like a day, and it was a lot of work. It really was. It was very, 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 very stressful. But I did it all in about a day, maybe 2 days, I think. One day was demo, the next day was reconstruction, and I was like not feeling good because it was also during a heat wave. No, it couldn't have been April. It must have been like in May, but there was an absolute heat wave. And I think it was like triple digits. And I was working in the morning, so the sun was just burning me up alive. I was so drenched in sweat. I just kept going. And it took me about 3 or 4 days before I felt normal again. But when you're not used to working at that pace, you know, with those conditions, it can really take a lot out of you. But anyway, I better get back to it. I'm really killing time here. But I have all week to do this. I do. I have all week to get this done. And I talked, by the way, with my girlfriend a little bit about what we're going to do with our cats, because once I start putting down glue and putting in tiles, I can't have the cats back in the house until after there's like 5 coats of wax on that new floor. I've already got the wax, but I got to put like 5 coats down as a base coat, as an initial waxing. And I can't have those cats running around the house because they will either get stuck to the glue, like a rat in a trap, or they'll ruin my new wax coat with their fur. So, gotta keep that in mind. So this will be fun. Yes, sir. So what's going to happen is we're going to let them stay here. She's going to stay with her mom for until I'm done. And they don't want to have the cats there unnecessarily. Like my girlfriend's mom is really nervous that the cats will ruin her furniture, and I totally agree. I totally sympathize. So what we're going to do is we're going to keep them here until I'm ready to put down that coat of adhesive. And once that's done, once the tiles are in, once there's 5 coats of wax, then they can come back home. End of day 1. Jump right on cue. Here he comes. Got this much taken out, and I've come up with a plan for putting the quarter ply down. So let's take a look for a sec here. Hope I don't repeat myself later in the video as I'm actually putting it in, but so the idea is you don't want the gaps in the underlayment, which is the quarter ply, to line up with whatever's below it. So you'll notice that these are actually 4x7 foot 10-inch sheets of plywood. They were obviously 4x8s cut down to fit. To avoid any overlaps, so they started their course over here. This is a full 4x sheet, then another 4x8 sheet, then another 4x8 sheet, but it didn't quite make it all the way over, so they put a filler piece right there. Perfectly fine. So what we're going to do is we're going to start over here. So that gap right there, or that seam, is not lined up with another seam. You get my point? We're going to go boom, 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 and then I'm going to cut a custom filler piece. It goes right in there. That's it. Easy peasy. That way there are no seams. Well, no, there won't be any seams that are lined up. Now as for this section here, as I stated, these were actually 4x8 sheets cut down to 4x7 foot 10. So there's 2 inches that have to be cut off. Rather than line up with this seam here, like that, we're going to leave those 2 inches and we're going to cut relief cuts on either side of this doorway for the sheet that goes here, so that that seam is covered up. Now as for the rest of this is such a small space. I'm going to do my best. This is going to be a tricky project because I'm not so good at, yeah, that's an intricate cut right there. I actually have a pin depth gauge or profile gauge. I'll be able to do profiles of those moldings. I just hope I get everything just right. It seems to be a recurring weak point in my carpentry skills, getting things to, fit where they're supposed to be. Now, we're going to quiet these floors down by driving screws into the floor joists. I've got to figure out where those floor joists are, because I don't know for sure that the nails that they used go into the joist. So I have to figure out where the joists are and then count off every 16 inches and drive screws into those, wherever the floor joists are. And that's going to solve the squeaky problem, and that'll be a permanent fix, by the way. It will never come back. This floor will be silent as the lambs themselves. And that's that. So that's it for the day 1 update, day 1 of demo. Tomorrow I'm going to wake up bright and early at 11 o'clock in the morning because I don't give up. And I'm going to start tearing up this section. So what I'm doing is I'm tearing these tiles up using a heat gun, 1200 watt heat gun, 1500 watt heat gun. And I'm using that to warm the tile up first. Then I take my angled, this rip and strip thing here. This is a tool that I use to rip up the bathroom floor too. It's a great little tool. And you use this to get under the tile and gently lift it from the adhesive. And they come up in one piece. They don't break. I mean, they can break, and sometimes it actually helps to break them a little bit. But by doing it this way, we reduce the amount of breakage of each tile. That way, it reduces the amount of possible exposure. Which, by the way, and a viewer mentioned this a little bit ago, but it's a known thing that these tiles are very low risk because the asbestos is embedded into the vinyl, and you just avoid breaking them up if at all possible. Of course, the best solution, as I've mentioned before, is to hire someone, but that someone wants me to pay them $4,500 to tear this whole thing out. And I'm sorry, I have better things to do with my money, and I probably won't live long enough to deal with the asbestosness anyway. So, based based on family history and whatnot. I'll be dead long before the the demon fibers take me out. But I'm taking them up in 2 tiles at a time. So I'm going 2 tiles deep, and then what I'll do is I'll take that tool and I'm scraping down that felt paper. So 2 tiles deep, and then I scrape it out. That way I don't have to go back and do all that. Do it as I go. Kind of do as much work as I can while I'm down there in that section, and then move on to the next 2 tiles. So we'll probably start over here. Boom, boom. Scrape the floor down. Take out the next 2. Scrape it down. Take out the next 2, and so on and so forth. Real simple stuff. This is not it's time consuming. It's not strenuous. It's not hard. It's just time consuming. And it's time consuming because of this material they put down. But I gotta tell you, that worked. Whatever they did, the materials that they used back then, they worked. Because this floor is 67 years old. And it really isn't that bad. So, a couple of things I noticed. As I'm pulling these tiles up, I'm taking a look at the underside of the tile, which has never seen the light of day. It's never seen a coat of wax. So right now, the tiles look kind of like a yellowish green. Well, they're not. They're gray. These are gray tiles. I know, adjust your hue of it, your vision eye colorness, but adjust your monitors. That makes more sense. Adjust your monitors. These are gray tiles. They're like a medium gray. And after 67 years of wear and tear and coatings of wax, you get this greenish color. But they are indeed gray. I know, right? Wild stuff. Let's take a look at some here. So, these still have the stuff on the back. But one of them, I could see the actual color. Some of them they crack and break, but they're going to do that. Well, let's take a look at this one here. You can actually see, that it looks like plastic. That's wax. That is many, 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 many layers of wax. Probably 70 coats of wax on this freaking thing. But you can see the original color there. It's gray. Go figure, right? So, that's that, man. It's a gray floor. But over the years, it has changed color. So that's why, a lot of people, consumers, homeowners, do not know how to care for these floors. Used to be common knowledge that, every year, every 2 years, whatever, you run a floor cleaning machine over them. You scrub away and strip away at the old wax coatings, and then you recoat them. 5, 6 coats of wax. And that's how you take care of them. I work in a building where we have tile floors like this in every hallway and every room in most cases. And every year, the custodial crew comes in and they strip off all the wax and they re-wax the whole floor, put like several coats of wax down, and within about 2 months the floors look like hell again, but we're going to pretend that that's not an issue. So I tried a new thing. I went up and I bought myself an iron. I actually have an iron that's nicer than this. But I bought this iron specifically to experiment with tile removal. So my thought was, if I do this, if I put the iron on the floor, let it heat the tile up as I'm working the tile next to it with a heat gun. Once that tile's up, I just knock it over, use the heat gun to do some spot heating as needed, and turns out it wasn't such a great idea after all. I probably did maybe 2 tiles, and I'm like, this is not working. Actually, one of the tiles started smoking, and well, I got this for $5, by the way. This is actually not a bad little iron. It's got a lot of neat features. But mine's a Panasonic with a retractable cord, the one that I didn't want to ruin. I didn't ruin this iron, so I'll probably redonate it, whatever. It came in the original box. But anyway, so that's it for tonight, and then tomorrow morning I'll continue stripping up floors and floor tiles, and I'm hoping that by 2 o'clock or so I can start laying my Luan, and that's going to be fun. I actually bought myself a nice little pneumatic staple gun just for the occasion, so I can't wait to play with that toy. Anyway, so once I'm ready to spread the glue, that's when the cats have to go, and they'll be gone for about 2 days before I get this floor done. I got to put the new floor down. I'm going to do that in one shot. I'm going to spread my glue, get my floor tile ready. I'm going to put the tiles on dollies, and I'm going to just boom, 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 put them in place. Do the center first, work my way out to the edges. I got a tile cutter, one of those guillotine style ones, and I got a couple of little nipping tools, and we'll make quick work of this. And once you start laying tile, it goes fast. I've seen professionals do one hallway in a matter of a couple of hours. They just boom, 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 boom. They just go like machines, and they can get the whole thing done in just a couple of hours. The glue has a very long set time, and so you have to spread it until it turns clear. So it comes on white, and then it turns clear. Once it's clear, it's ready to go. It's prime for a good time. You can see how they spread the stuff too. Yeah, they were a little more haphazard, but they were professionals. So there you go, folks. Tile Floor 101. So one thing I was going to make a video on, but I decided not to, is this. You probably don't notice any difference here, but trust me, a lot of work went into this. So when I had this new furnace installed, it was hooked up to the original thimble, which is the opening that goes through the brick wall into the chimney flue. And the original furnace used, I believe, a 7-inch diameter exhaust pipe. This one only uses, I think that's like was that 6 inches, 5 inches? Whatever, it was 2 inches bigger than this one. And the problem is the original furnace was extremely inefficient. And as a result, it sent a lot of heat up that flue, which wasn't a problem. The flue was sized for it, not an issue. It had enough heat to warm that flue up enough to prevent it from condensing, on the brick, or I'm sorry, on the clay tile chimney liner. But once we put this furnace in, we started having a major condensation issue. What was happening is the exhaust temperature was significantly lower, and it wasn't. It was cooling off too quickly, too rapidly in such a large flue. So the result of that was water essentially pouring down the flue. The water was actually from the furnace exhaust, just condensing on the tile. So I had water pouring down the chimney that wasn't from any external source. It wasn't from rain or snow or ice or anything. But it was forming ice. I would have icicles, actually, in the back of this cleanout box. It was really not great. And as a result of all that nastiness, and because of the sulfuric acid content of the furnace exhaust, it's an oil furnace, so it produces sulfuric acid. It was eating away at the clay tile liner dramatically, and this sucker would fill up with little orange flakes of flue tile. So I finally decided that now's the time to just get it done right. So I contacted a gentleman who was recommended by a neighbor. Good masons and chimney folks are sometimes hard to find. A lot of them, unfortunately, there's a lot of them that run shady operations that don't really, they don't believe in honesty, and they will oversell and tell you that you need the world when you only need a small patch of land, so to speak. This guy was very honest and straightforward, and he told me exactly what he was going to do, what it would cost. He was upfront with everything. He told me what I didn't need. I half expected him to tell me that he had to cut out all the old, clay tile, flue tiles, but he did not. He said, no, they're fine. They're still structurally sound, but you have lost some surface from, the acidic exhaust gases and whatnot. All that water freezing inside the flue is not a good thing, as you can only imagine. So he went ahead and put a stainless steel chimney liner, which is a flexible, it looks like a flex hose, but it's very thick. And he ran that all the way down the flue, and he put in this is a heavy-duty stainless steel thimble, and put it all together. And it cost me a fortune, but it had to be done. It was a little pricier than I had anticipated. There's the bottom end. So that stays open, by the way, because moisture will occur in there, and it has to go somewhere. So it's just going to drip down into this clean out. But that's fine. But it won't be nearly as dramatic as it was with the old setup that we had. So I was able to clean all the rust stains off the wall, and I repainted the wall. It was getting really bad. You might actually see it in some of my videos. There was a huge rust and calcium stain going down the freaking wall. It was bad. So that's all fixed up, and that was one of the 7 deadly sins about this house that was causing me sleepless nights. Because you can't leave things like that go forever. Eventually, it will cause major damage, and it was actually starting to. What was happening is the moisture was starting to breach the flue tile itself, which means that exhaust gases could also be getting out that way. So I noticed that we were getting efflorescent stains on the outside of the chimney on the furnace flue side, which was that was like that was the final straw. When I started seeing that happen, what happens is the moisture gets into the brick. The flue tile is designed to protect the brick from the flue gases, but once that breaches, you can start having erosion of the brick itself, and that is not a good situation to be in, because brick is that's structural, and enough damage to the brick, and you could have a major problem with your chimney that would require many hours of masonry work. So the name of the game is to get at these things before they become catastrophic. So when you buy an old house like this is the stuff that you have to deal with. It's just the reality. Older houses have personality, they have charm, and they're often cheaper than a brand new one. But you do have to watch out for things like this. As a matter of fact, they were still building masonry chimneys like this up into the 80s. So I mean, even though I don't consider a house from the 80s terribly old, but this is the stuff you have to watch out for. Modern houses generally don't have brick chimneys. They have basically vinyl-sided chaseways made to look like chimneys that are just chaseways for double-walled flue pipe, and that's what you get. I would rather have a brick chimney and a real brick fireplace like I have here, because I think that's nicer, but that's just me. I actually like the fact that this house has older stuff in it. It's much more, I just like it. But while I was there, I had him take a look at the fireplace flue, and I noticed, because when I looked up the flue with a flashlight, I could see that it looks like the clay tiles are shifting. So I asked him if it would make sense to reline the fireplace flue while he's there, and he said no, which shocked me, because anytime a contractor has an opportunity to do some it's kind of like bringing your car to the mechanic and saying, find something wrong with it and fix it, and then send me the bill. I'll pay it no matter what. It's kind of like that. So I was hoping that this guy was going to be honest with me, and he was. He said, no, your chimney's fine. In fact, he wouldn't even clean it. He said, there's no need to clean the flue because you don't use it that much, and clearly there's really no creosote buildup. There's nothing in the flue to worry about, which was good to hear. So the good news is the chimney's all set on the on both sides now. And but yeah, he said that the flue tile liner, the clay tile liners, I should take a picture of one to show you what it is. But the way they're cast, they are irregularly shaped. That's what he said. He says they're irregularly shaped, and it's going to look like there's a little bit of misalignment, but otherwise they're fine, and that's okay. And he looked around the chimney. He didn't see any evidence of, staining on the brick or anything. It's in perfect shape. So while he did all that, he also put a full stainless steel cap over the whole chimney. And he said the crown looks great. And I said, I told him that I put Crown Saver on the crown. And he said, yeah, that works great. He did a nice job. And I'm like, oh, thank you. But anyway. Good guy. Would hire him again. I'm hoping that when it comes time to clean the chimney for once, he'll be able to do it. I also learned something talking to one of my neighbors. The gentleman who rented this house several years ago. He actually still lives in this neighborhood. He's quite a bit older than I am, but he lives in this neighborhood. But he actually put a pellet stove in that fireplace upstairs. He actually ran his own liner in it and everything. I guess that's what he did. He put a liner down his own. I guess he bought his own liner, put it in, hooked it up to the pellet stove, and he actually had a pellet stove in this house. So I was shocked to hear that because I thought that you would have to take the throat damper out to do something like that, but that didn't seem to be the case because the throat damper's fully intact. Exactly. But I thought I'd take a few moments to talk about some other stuff going on around the house. This place is really coming together. Oh, that's so cute. He growled at the camera. Rawr. But yeah, it's an old house. It definitely needs work. But actually, most of it's done. 2.5 years later, I've got almost everything I need done that has to be done. There's only one more thing to do. Actually, 2, 3. I need to build a patio off the back, which I'm hemming and hawing about maybe doing a concrete patio. I think that would be nicer and longer lasting. But I also need to repair that floor joist up there, which I'm not even worried about it right now. It's not that important. The leaks are fixed. That's all that matters. And I want to do the breezeway over again. I want to do some nicer windows in the breezeway. We want to keep it as a sun porch. We don't want to finish it off and insulate it and heat it or anything like that. It's a nice thing to have, especially in the spring, summer, and fall. It's like a 3-season porch. In the winter, it's useless. It's so damn cold in there. But, what you doing, buddy? I love these AV carts. I got them for free from work. They were going to throw them out. And, they're very handy little things. I covered them in paint, but whatever. They're mine. They're free. But, yeah. When you buy an older house like this, you're going to have these things pop up. I mean, doing a floor, that's going to happen, I'm just grateful that I didn't buy this house from a flipper, because flippers, what they would have done is they would have simply covered over the old floor with maybe plank vinyl or, something cheap, and, price the house accordingly. What are you eating now? What did he get himself into? Cats, man, I'm telling you. Can't live with them. Anyway. So, it's owning a home is definitely not for the faint of heart. Or the light of wallet. Although, after owning a home, you will be. Both. And, If you buy a brand new house, though, you'll have like maybe 5, maybe 10 years of trouble-free home ownership. You won't have to do a thing. Depending on who built your house. I've watched some videos of new home construction, and I'm horrified by what I'm seeing. There's a guy who I forget what his YouTube channel is, but he's a contractor. He's a home builder, and he goes around, and he actually goes. I guess he does some subcontracting work, and he'll go to a construction site where they're building brand new homes, and he'll walk around the job site, looking at all these new homes in new neighborhoods, and he'll just point to things that are done completely incorrectly. He'll even say that, this house is going to have water leaks in about 5 years, or, this wall is going to have to be rebuilt in no time because he's pointing out where the flashing is missed. But sometimes when you buy an older home that's been established, or in an older neighborhood that's been established, you can see how the house is aging, and a house that's poorly built will not age well. This place, I wouldn't call this a well-built home. I found some things that were quite terrible, to the point where I would say that this house was probably built by the Monroe brothers from Green Acres. Maybe not that bad, but there are a few head scratchers that I found in this house, mainly to do with that front entryway. Remember, I had to rebuild that whole entryway, and as I'm pulling it apart, I'm finding things that are just maddeningly stupid. Like, why would they do that? But, ultimately, the sum of the whole, the house has actually held up. It really has. I mean, even when my roofer did the roof, he didn't find a single board that had to be replaced. Not one. Every board, because it's a 1x6 or 1x8 plank. What do they call that? Underlayment on the roof. Not one of them was rotted. Not a single one. Which is almost unheard of, considering the age of the house. I know that when we did my dad's garage, his garage was built in 1959, and we had to re-roof the whole garage. And we found dozens of planks that were cracked, rotted, had to be replaced. But, I mean, you look at this foundation, it just has a couple of hairline vertical cracks, which is completely normal for a foundation. If you have a poured foundation like this, you are going to have vertical cracks. It's just going to happen. Now, when those cracks become a certain width, that's when it becomes a problem. But these aren't even split. They're just a hairline crack. Nothing. You can't even fit a needle in them. And that's going to happen to any house, especially one that's been sitting here for as long as this has. But, so there's no foundation issues. I mean, the floor has got a few cracks in it, but that's not a structural issue at all. The front, the fascia, the front of the house is all brick, and there's no damage, there's no cracks, there's nothing, no settling issues. Even the windows in this house, which are all original, none of them are rotted. I just had to replace the glazing compound. That's it. Just reglaze them and paint them, and they were fine. So I guess the point is, this place must have been built to some high standards. But as you start pulling walls apart, you're going to see things that are kind of weird, kind of unusual. I found a few of those so far. Like when they build the kitchen walls, for example. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Oh God, this kitchen smells like burnt rubber. It smells like NASCAR. All right, check this out. Okay, so this is a what do they call that? I've installed these before. This is like a new work box, old work, whatever. But you look at behind it. Now, what's that for? It's not a stud. or is it? I don't know why they put that there. This just happened to be here when they put this box in, but it's what it is. Is clearly it's a stud going this way. Why? You know, is it? Maybe it's, you know, it could be. No, it's not that, because it doesn't line up. Like, I'm thinking maybe it's the vertical stud for here, but it's too far over for that. You know. Like, why is that there? So this wall is a 2x4 wall. This wall, not this wall right here, that's 2x3. Yeah, stuff like that, you know. And it's not, it's dimensional like real 2x3. So there's not a structural deficiency or anything. It's just kind of weird how they just whatever. But anyway, what's my point? My point is this. The house is built well enough to have survived all these years. And with all the work I'm doing, it'll be around for a long, long time. Long after I'm gone, anyway. So. Anywho's...